So where are we at? It seems like we're at this endless cycle of we make progress and then it's erased or it's stopped. And there is this cycle of every time marginalized identity makes progress, it seems like there's a wave of resistance that follows it. And that can feel, if I like to equate that to Michael Jackson's moonwalk. It looks like he's moving forward, but he's moving backwards. And it can feel like that. And while there's many reasons for that, one of the most prevalent reasons for me is that most of the work in this field has been done at that tip of the iceberg. Some of you know I use that model where we're just reacting and mitigating to events and patterns and systems. And it's true for the environmental movement as well. And that work can be exhausting. It can lead to burnout. It can even lead to us turning on each other because it never really addresses the underlying paradigms and beliefs that are creating those patterns and those systems and events. Another reason we haven't made a lot of progress is the beautiful seeds that all of you have planted in your own life in this world, in this effort in this world, can only grow based on the soil that they're planted in. And the soil that they're planted in is the culture and the society that we're in that we don't have control over, but we actually chose to be here. What is exciting about these times right now is that the soil that we're living in is being tilled. It's changing. We're in a different era, and it's absolutely what gives me hope and excitement. But when you till the soil, it's like those of you that monitor lakes, here's your analogy for you. It's like when the lake turns over. When you till the soil, you bring up all the muck and the grime and the toxicity, as well as all the nutrients and other things to get a remix. And so I think of the seeds now that I'm planting, that you're planting, are now literally in this new era. They're landing in different soil. And that gives me a lot of hope and excitement that the toxicity, if you will, that's coming up through all of these pressures that we have around us, climate change and war, all of these things that make us feel hopeless. It's this toxicity that's actually being transmuted and neutralized, or whatever language we want to use for that, to create a more fertile soil. And this is where I choose to focus, and I think you guys do as well. And to embody this sort of universal truth that is now coming into our consciousness, into our energy fields, into our awareness, and why now this movement is not going to go away, even though it feels like it is, and often feels like it used to be, because this is not the 60s, this is not the 70s, this is new. It really is new, but we are not living it yet, if you will. And the universal truth is that we are all whole, we all matter, and we're all one. So I want you to just close your eyes for a minute, and I want you to experience, because I'm going back to what is equality. Take a breath. And let these words land in you. And you can even repeat them to yourself so they're vibrating in your body. Say, I am here. I am here now. I matter. I am of value. I don't actually have to do anything or be anyone to be of value. Simply because I'm here is enough. I am enough. I am unique. My uniqueness contributes to the whole. I am both an individual and part of the whole. I want to be seen and valued for who I am as a whole being, not some element of my identity. This is dignity. And now say to yourself, everyone is here. Everyone is here now. Everyone matters. They are all value. They don't have to do or be anyone to be of value. They are here. Everyone is unique. Everyone's collective uniqueness makes the whole work. Everyone is an individual and part of the whole. Everyone else wants to be seen and valued for who they are as a whole being, not some element of their identity. That is their dignity. Equality is valuing the whole by valuing the sum of the parts, which are all unique, connected in one, both the whole and the parts, not either or. Now open your eyes and beam gratitude for yourself and to others for all their gifts. Just find people and look at them and beam it for 30 seconds. This is our common humanity, that everyone who is here gets to be here simply because they are here, regardless if we understand them or relate them or even like them. And we were all equal in this sense, that no one is better than anyone else or any other living thing ever. And this is the universal truth. Like gravity, we don't have to like it, understand it, or agree with it, and it still works. So as I wanted you to experience that, but as humans, we are wired at birth as part of our development to differentiate ourselves from other people. This is happening like at 2 to 3 to 5 years old, and we look for how we're different than others in order to identify who we are in our own uniqueness, our own value, our own belonging. And we do this as children to survive, to be safe, to be secure. Because if we're not, then no one will feed us, we won't survive. We do this to have eventual sovereignty over our own life. So an element of this is to believe and consider in our own neurology that we are better than others. So there's a part of this that's natural. So I'm sharing with you the both and. So we're wired that way to connect to our uniqueness, which is in service of the whole. And yet we know the last 2,000 years that when better than is used to dominate, control, exclude, oppress, and is fueled by fear and scarcity, we violate this universal truth that we are all connected in one, that we all do matter simply by being here. And it causes everybody suffering. So because we are who we are, I of course have a couple slides on this so that it'll be captured. Ibram Kendi said, our differences are interesting, but not as important as our common humanity, which is this: we are enough just as we are. And of course, the era, the last 2,000 years, has centered on creating false, abusing and creating false differences to serve the self-interests of a select elite few at the expense of all. I thought going back to the whole reason we're in this movement is because we're not living this truth that we're all equal. So these co-creation of false concepts create this better than superiority. I don't need to tell you guys all this, but it's this vertical ladder that we must step on somebody else in order to succeed, in order to manner, in order to be valued, in order to make money. You fill in a blank. And it's necessary almost required to other. And of course, we know that creates exclusion, unproductivity. It's harmful to everybody, injustices and equities. It's what creates classes, all the isms and all the marginalized identities. Oh, I see. I didn't delete that slide. Okay. But the truth is, the universal truth is no one is better than anyone else or any other life form. What's exciting again is this era is over. And the consciousness of this, and I define consciousness as empowerment and awareness coming together. So we've had a lot of awareness in the 60s and 70s, but we didn't have a lot of empowerment to do a critical mass of change, but it's on the rise. So the soil that we're planting these seeds in is changing. We are actually taking this vertical false structure, ladder, and making it horizontal. And I picked this image and paid for it, if you will, of a white man taking a ladder and turning it horizontal because it includes the oppressors, dealing with making this a horizontal. That's the new era that we're in, is creating a horizontal power structure. And it's through solidarity. So it's not about being different. It's about acknowledging our differences, but in service of the whole. And so it's about solidarity. And to bring this home, I'm going to have some reflecting question for you. To bring it home in the classic diagram here, where equality actually equals belonging, liberation, and justice. And I'll zip through this because most of you already know this, but this is for a resource and others learning, is that these things are asking different questions. Equality is in this movement. I like my definition earlier, but it's really having access to the same, being treated with dignity and the same, regardless of what I might need or not, that I'm enough as I am and I'm treated equally for that. We ask, is everyone in the room treated equally when we're doing this work? Diversity focuses on quantity. It's the countless dimensions of humanity. It's focusing on, do we have the right sort of elements of humanity in the room? What perspectives are here? What isn't? What's represented? It's really focused on quantity, which aligns with our culture and why it was the next thing that we did in the 90s, is because it aligned more with productivity and a product, but it didn't really do the job because people wanted to really have a different experience. So equity is about eliminating the barriers. It's about the quality of experience that employees or volunteers or our constituents are having. And that asks the question, who's in the room? Are they able to be here? What's keeping them from being here? What are the barriers that they need to participate? And inclusion are the conditions where folks who are in the room are actually part of the power, resources, mentoring, training, the decisions. And so our conditions, the workflows that allow everyone who is in the room to be heard, to be valued, to be mentored. You have to have a presence about your work to have an impact in this part. And then, of course, the goal is the emotional state of feeling like you belong, justice and liberation. So is the room physically and psychologically safe for individuals to be authentic, to be themselves, to have a group connection, etc. There's some really good, I'll put a couple videos in the resource link. That one of them is a woman who talks about diversity, heaven, and inclusion, hell. And another is a really good one on what it's like to bring your whole self to the room and you're not included. And what's that like? So quit asking marginalized identities to bring their whole self to work when they're actually never not welcomed. So I like to think of one of the reasons the movement has stalled is because we're too focused on what we do when these things are actually who we are now and who we need to become. And then that informs what we do. They're energy-based, they're relationship-based, they're heart-based. And you heard it from me here first. The currency of the future is energy, heart. That's the currency of the future right now, actually, not the intellectual, not information. So I look at these things as strategies or markers or many outcomes, that they are necessary but not sufficient alone to get us back to equality, valuing each other as we are. And of course, that happens at an individual, organization, and systemic level. So that is the teaching today, is bringing us back to remembering we got here because we're actually not living a universal truth, that we are all equal at that fundamental level. And I don't have to do anything to be equal to you. So this got me thinking on my own personal journey, and I began to make a list of who I think I'm better than. So who do you think you're better than and why? This is all for you to do in your personal journal learning. You know, as a child, who do you think you were better from? As an adult, why do you think that is? Where does it come from? And can you bring curiosity? It's not your fault to that lens. How does it make you feel when you believe that you're better than somebody? How do you feel when others believe they are better than you? What behaviors do they have that show that? What might be underneath their beliefs, like a fear, perhaps? These are all, you don't have to do any or all of these. How does this vertical ladder, you have to step on somebody to be better than, influence your perspective? And how would a horizontal ladder of power and relationship and value be supported of your work? And then if there was anything, one of the equity principles is to have a common language, a shared language. And I think one of the struggles we have is people don't really understand what diversity is compared to exclusion, even though they're all related. Inclusion and equity. So what about those slides or those reinforced and it's new for you? And how would a common language help your efforts? So we only have a minute left. I apologize. I did not manage the time collectively. Normally we would have like 10 minutes of reflecting on that, or 5, 7, and then we would share. I thought I could make up that time for because we didn't have a joint success challenge, and we started a little late, so there it is. I will continue with the little teachings on some basic, bringing sort of heart energy and energy into some of the intellectual facts that we already know. And I hope that is meaningful. That's what is being called to me to share. So I'm going to be quiet and stop the recording because the teaching is over.